Hello everybody, how's it going on? My name is Andrew, also known as GivReads, also known as Sigils. I'm a YouTuber, author, booktuber. I don't know if it's in that order because I'd like to stay busy. Here on this channel, we talk about reading, writing, storytelling, everything in between, and we have a lot of fun. If you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get this channel up off the ground. It's a great way to help out. Also hit the subscribe button. Wait, I said that, the like button. Also hit the like button. All those things really help. It's a great way to support the channel, help us get partnered, all that good stuff. Today, we're going to be going through what I've been reading lately. I haven't done a lot of book reviews or anything lately. I haven't had the time, but I am still reading. Stephen King says that it's incredibly important for an author to read, and so I'm trying to take that literally. Plus, I love reading, so it's not exactly hard for me. So I thought I'd update you with some of the things I'm reading, some of the things I'm looking forward to reading, my TBR, as BookTube calls it, which is always a lot of fun. I like seeing what people are excited about, and we're gonna go through that. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, as always, the links will be in the description below. You can grab them if you use my code. I get a little kickback, helps me keep on doing, pay for more book covers and stuff like that. So that's great stuff. Now, the first thing I'll cover is a couple books I just read, and then we'll get to the TBR. We'll kind of go through it in that order. It should be a good time. Okay, so TBR, I'm going back like the last month or so. I read The Depth of the Water, which is book 2 of The Redemption of Howard Marsh, which is an urban fantasy series I really like. It's another indie published one. The author's really cool. His name is Bob McGow. I actually interacted with him a couple times on Reddit, which is how I found out about his series. It's a really interesting, gritty, dark, sad urban fantasy. It's about a wizard who lives in, I think it's rural Alabama. He's real poor, he's a drug addict, and the drugs kind of help him do magic, but he also deep down has some little nugget of goodness left in him, and he keeps getting drawn to these things where he has to help people. It's a really cool take on magic, I think, and especially in a setting, urban fantasy, but not being in an urban area. So I guess maybe that usually in my head, I treat urban fantasy as being kind of like modern fantasy in our world, right? And that's what this is. It's not urban as then they live in the country, and that's a whole other avenue for a lot of fun stuff. Each book kind of has a couple different kind of almost novellas in it. It's like different adventures of Howard Marsh. They all tie together, but it's not one cohesive novel. But I really enjoyed it. I think the writing's really good. It's really fun. It's a really unique thing. There's a couple more in the series that I'm going to work my way through, but if you're looking for some weird urban fantasy in a good way, I would highly recommend it. The other book that I just finished is Malignant Seven, which is Sebastian de Castell's new series. Now, I've talked about Sebastian de Castell before. He did the Spellslinger series and the Great Code series, both of which are a ton of fun. I think I enjoy Spellslinger slightly more, but they're both a ton of fun. And so the Malevolent Seven is the first book in his new series about a group of 7 wizards who kind of get caught in this war between the equivalent of heaven and hell in their universe. And it's kind of cool. It's a really interesting twist on magic. His wizards are called Wonderists, and they kind of all have knacks where they have different abilities, like a different specialization that they can do. Like you might be a Thunderist or a Luminist, or who does light, or everything in between. And there's some cool twists and turns to it. I think the universe is really cool. Sebastian de Castell's stuff's always a ton of fun, so I will continue to read it. I enjoyed this one. It was a good time. The other thing I want to mention that I just finished reading was The Captain, which is Will White's new book from the Last Horizon series, book 1. Definitely completely different from Cradle, going with more of like a sci-fi space opera with magic type of thing. I enjoyed it. I like everything Will does. I've read almost all of his books. I think the only thing I haven't read is he has the one series that's like the same thing happening at the same time. I've only read one side of it. I haven't read the other. But other than that, I think I've read everything he's written. I really, really enjoy his stuff. I don't know if this is going to replace Cradle for me in terms of like the perfect itch that it gets for me, but it is really cool. It's definitely worth checking out, especially if you like Will's stuff, if you like Cradle, if you like sci-fi with magic, like blatant, like wizards in space. This is your vibe. It's going to be really cool. It's got a little bit of that progression feel to it too, of course. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I will, of course, continue reading it. Yeah, it's a first book, right? So comparing a series that you like are really, really into, like how much I enjoy Cradle, versus like book 1 of a new series, you got to give some room to like set stuff up. There was a lot of cool mechanics that he played with, a lot of fun feelings, like the messing with time and messing with alternate realities, which can be tedious or can be done really well. And so far, I think Will's doing it really well. I'm excited to see. Also, the other characters that introduced are a lot of fun and very Will White in that they're like, you'll see what I mean, but like I can feel him writing them in the best way possible. But I'm like, these are the kind of characters Will loves and that Will shines with when he writes. So I'm excited to see more of them. I will definitely continue reading that. Everything I've been reading lately, I've been really, really enjoying. Right now, I'm working my way through Vain Pursuits, which is book 2 of the Black Badge series, which is a Weird West written by my good friend Jamie Castle and his co-author Red C. Bruno. I've talked about this a little bit before because I do want to write like an urban fantasy Wild West. Again, I'm using urban fantasy in the sense of like set in our world and like slightly modern. I think the term is often Weird West for it, but I think that genre doesn't have a lot of love for it. But basically Wild West, but with the kind of like same sort of rules that we use in urban fantasy. So I think it's a really, really fun series. I'm about halfway. I'm a little over 50% of the way done with the book right now. I kind of got to the big thing. I'm really enjoying it. I actually think I like it more than Cold as Hell, which is book 1. Technically, there's a precursor called Dead Acre, but that's Audible only. And my ADD is so bad, I can't really listen to audiobooks unless I'm like doing something else. My job involves me talking, so I can't really listen to things very often. So I am also listening to that, but I haven't finished it. So I don't know everything that happens, but I've read Cold as Hell and now Vain Pursuits, and I really like Vain Pursuits a lot. I'm excited to see how it ends, but this is going to be one of my new really urban fantasy Wild West kind of thing that I'm super excited about. Again, definitely worth your time, definitely worth checking out. Up next, let's talk about the TBR, the to be read, my pile of books that I really want to read but I have not read yet. The book that I'm reading immediately after this, speaking of Will White, is Waybound. It came out like yesterday. I have, 30% left of Vain Pursuit, so I'll probably finish that in the next couple days. I'm going to Disney World this weekend, so the plan is to really finish that and then read the other one on the plane. I'm excited to finish the Cradle series. I don't want to know anything about it. Don't want to look at it. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to, I'm going to go in blind and I'm going to have a lot of fun, but I have a hard time seeing how Cradle's gonna end. I thought there was a couple more books left in it, and like how in my vision of how it was going, so I'm curious to see how he ties it up. Now I have heard that Waybound is significantly larger than all the other Cradle series, is like the biggest book he's ever written, so that may be how he did it. That's really like almost 2 books, but we'll find out. After that, I'm kind of staying on my urban fantasy kick for a while. I'm gonna read Bob the Wizard. If you haven't heard of Bob the Wizard, it is a gritty urban fantasy about a garbage man whose family's murdered, and he learns a lot about himself and covers sort of his heritage as he goes looking for their killers. That's literally all I know. I mentioned this recently in one of my books, in one of my videos where we talked about the SPFBO, SFPBO. I have dyslexia. I cannot do that an acronym. But basically, it was the cover that won, but it was discovered that the cover artist had lied and used AI to generate it, and there was a whole thing. Now, I saw on Twitter that the author announced that he has a new cover artist lining up, and the person who does that cover is phenomenal, so he's going to be great. But everybody was saying the book was really good, and I kind of wanted to support it, just check out, because the really terrible situation to go through for an author, and I'm always looking for more urban fantasy that scratches that little scratch. So I'm gonna check it out. I have no expectations going into it other than I'm curious and I want to see what it is. So I'll be reading that. I probably will report back because urban fantasy is of course near and dear to my heart. I'd love to talk about it more. Up next is Transformation, which is Battle Mage Farmer book 5. That is by our good friend of the channel, Seth Ring. That's like one of his like blockbuster running away series. All of his series run away, but who are we kidding? Seth is, a phenomenal writer and a phenomenally read writer, which is even greater. And he just put out book 5 of his series. I've read the first 4. I really enjoy it. I don't read a ton of lit RPG. I like progression a little more than lit RPG, although Seth would kind of describe himself as being more game lit, which is like, I'm gonna do a video talking about this at some point. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you like a cozy kind of progression-y, game lit, mild video game sort of influence story that then goes some wild places. I think he did a really good job capturing some unique elements. It also has a little bit of Wild West flair to it, which, as you know, I love me some Wild West. I grew up reading Louis L'Amour, so that's a big deal for me. That's coming up next. After I read, probably after I read Waybound or Bob, kind of TBD on the TBR. Look at all these, look at me using anagrams. Anything over 4 letters is when my brain, I can do like TBD, AFK, like any 3 letters, my dyslexic little brain's like, yeah, I get that. 4 letters, my brain's like, I don't know, there's a beginning one, a middle one, but the middle one, there's a beginning and the end, but the middle one, they go in some sort of order, and you have to live with that. The other one that I have floating right now is I was following some authors on Twitter, and they were talking about how Terry Pratchett, who might be one of the most prolific authors of the last generation, who I adore, but I haven't read enough of. And the reason is, so he wrote Discworld, right, which has many books to it, and it's got that like comedy fantasy thing going on. A lot of people, apparently, I didn't know this, say that the Color of Magic, which is the first book of Discworld, is not his best. And some people are like, it's not the best one to start with either. I have started the Color of Magic twice and not gotten bored, but not gotten pulled in. Like as I read, I'm like, man, you're such a great writer. Like I am in love with this, but also I don't feel the need to keep reading. So a bunch of people said that Mort is one of the best places to enter. And apparently Pratchett himself also said this. So I'm not, you know, going against his vision of how you should read a series. So I'm going to try it because I want to read more Pratchett, because obviously there's a little bit of comedic humor to my style as well. So why not steal from the great? Called homework. Also coming up after all of that is another urban fantasy, which is cult classic, book 11 of the Eric Carter series. I was very disappointed to find out, because I follow Stephen Blackmore on Twitter. Apparently this is going to be the last one. His publishers decided that they don't want to move forward. This was the last one that they want to do. So he said it is a pretty good wrap up place, but there was more that he wanted to do, but this will work. Eric Carter's been a series I really enjoy as a really like dark, sort of grim urban fantasy. Like, it's about a necromancer, right? It obviously has much darker overtones than something like Dresden or things like that, but I always enjoy it. They've been getting better and better, more fun as he's sort of expanded out into his universe too. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also sad. The last one that I kind of really have on my radar is The Will of the Many, which is the Hierarchy book 1 and it's by James Islington. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so apologies. One of the reasons I'm so excited about it is Patrick Leo did a review for it as sort of like its debut, and he compared it to Red Rising. Said if people who like Red Rising will love this book. It's like a similar thing, very inspired by like Roman and Greek myth, but its own thing. You know, it got some of the overthrow, all that kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that. I love Red Rising, absolutely adore it. And he told me that if I loved Red Rising, I would adore this. So on his recommendation, I put it on my list. I'm hoping to read that soon. As you can see, I have a lot of books piled up. I'm exhausted, but I need to keep reading, so I'm going to. And also reading keeps me sane. So that about does it for what I have been reading and what I am reading and what I'm excited about. I'm sure there's more. There always is. I also left off, I read Iron Widow book 1, which is a book blowing up on TikTok, and I was curious and I really enjoyed it, and so I will be reading the second one of that. I also read The Fourth Wing book 1, which also is blowing up on TikTok. Those both fall under like more of the romance category, but you know what? I'll read Sarah J. Maas. I'm with it. I'm down. They were both super fun. I will be reading their sequels when they come out. I think it's Iron Flame and Heavenly Tyrant, which are the book 2 for both of them. So those are on my list as well sometime in the future, as well as, of course, Cinder Spires book 2, which I have pre-ordered. So we got a lot of good stuff floating out there. I'm excited. It's gonna be a good reading season. Leave some comments down below if there's anything I missed, anything you've read. If you've read any of that and you're really excited about it, like I said, I'll do my best to link all of this too. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, do all that good YouTube stuff, and I'll see you again in our next BookTube video very soon.